Greetings to you, friends, from the monks of Mount Angel. So, this Sunday is Palm Sunday, which means we begin the Great Holy Week. And so we monks want to accompany you in that with our prayers and with our thoughts. I thought to share with you today a meditation on Mark's account of the death of Jesus. As you know, on Palm Sunday, we always read an account of the Passion, either from Matthew, Mark, or Luke. And always on Good Friday, we always read the Passion account according to St. John. This is Mark's year this year, so let's look at his account. You know, each of the four evangelists tells, in a sense, the same story about the death of Jesus, but each of them tells it in a different way, making a theological point. And it's important to understand this perspective of faith and insight that the very telling of the story of Jesus' crucifixion carries. It's worth remembering about all the Gospels that the whole Gospel story is told from the perspective of the resurrection of Jesus. Like we know that happened, so we don't have to pretend we don't. But at length, each evangelist goes into pondering the crucifixion of Jesus, so that the resurrection can also be understood. Or we could also say it's only from the perspective of the resurrection and the encounter with Jesus that gives us that we can understand the depth of the crucifixion. This is certainly true with Mark. Of the four evangelists, Mark's account is a especially stark version of the crucifixion. Here's how we're just going to zero in on just the last, Jesus on the cross. The Passion account that will be read is longer than that. It starts with the Last Supper, then Gethsemane, the arrest, the trial of Jesus, and then finally he's crucified. But the evangelist Mark carefully twice delineates what time it is. At 9 in the morning, they put Jesus on the cross, and for the next 3 hours, there's like commotion around Jesus. And then at noon, the whole world goes dark, and there's silence. There's no more talking. And then Jesus dies at the last, and there's just a little moment there. So we're going to look at those 3 times. The first 3 hours, then the last 3 hours, and the moment itself of Jesus' death, the way Mark tells it. Now, here's how it starts. It was 9 in the morning when they crucified him. And then he goes on to say, those passing by reviled him, shaking their heads and saying. And there's 2 types of taunt that are directed to Jesus that Mark recalls. And the first one is a whole bunch of people saying to him, "Ha, you said you would destroy the temple and in 3 days raise it up again." And the taunt is, how are you going to do that if you're there on the cross? And so this is awful. They say, come down from the cross and do what you said you'd do. Jesus had just said this, and it was mentioned in his trial earlier in the passage. So that's one taunt. And then the second taunt is from the chief priests and the scribes. And they had been present, some of these, at the trial in which he was asked, "Are you the Christ, the Son of the living God?" And he answered, "Yes," in the affirmative. "And you will see him coming on clouds with great power." So they throw this right back in his face as he's there on the cross. "Oh, if you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." So the question is, will Jesus show himself Messiah by coming down from the cross? That would be a real Messiah, and then we would believe in him. That's the taunt. That's the suffering to which Jesus is put. Then at noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. Nobody's saying anything. The world is dark when it should be its brightest at noon. Nobody says anything. And then at 3 o'clock, Jesus cries out in a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani." And in his native language, not quite understood. And it's translated, my God, why have you forsaken me? Yes, perhaps this gives us some glimpse into what can hardly be known, namely the absolute depth, the unfathomable depth, really, of the sufferings of Jesus, that he could be feeling abandoned by God. But that's not really where the story goes, or that's there for us to ponder. But the point of the story, right in its immediacy, is the people that hear Eloi, Eloi, and think, oh, maybe he's calling Elijah, because they knew the theology, which Jesus himself knew, that when the Messiah comes, Elijah will come first on his fiery chariot in return to lead the Messiah into the world. So maybe they're thinking that Jesus, in his last desperation, as it were, is calling for Elijah to show up and save him from this scene. And that's why they soak a sponge with vinegar, actually to keep him alive, to give him some relief. And they say, let us see if Elijah comes and takes him down. Look what we have here. 3 times now, the question, can you come down? Can you come down? Or will Elijah come? And will he come down? So the question is pending. And it's kind of spooky, really. What if that happened? But Jesus does not come down. And we read simply, then Jesus gave a loud cry and breathed his last. That is to say, by all accounts, Jesus has lost the bet. How could Jesus be the Messiah that he claimed to be? How could he be the Son of God if he is abandoned like this? Mark really puts our nose in this unbelievable moment. But then he adds very quickly, so it goes so quick we think, oh, there's nothing there. But here's the secret to the whole thing. It says, and then the veil of the sanctuary was torn in two from top to bottom. And when the centurion who stood facing him saw how he breathed his last, he said, truly, this man was the Son of God. 2 little episodes right in the moment that Jesus dies. What do they mean? Why are they mentioned? They both are extremely suggestive, and we're meant to stay there praying and let the suggestions, unfold, emerge within us. The curtain of the sanctuary is torn from top to bottom. This is the temple in Jerusalem, and this curtain in the sanctuary protected the Holy of Holies, which, in fact, you perhaps know this about the Holy of Holies, was empty. Interpreted how? Or you could say it's a marvelous, eloquent sense of the impossibility of expressing the presence of God, or a hiding of the fact that there's nothing there. But in any case, concomitant with Jesus' death, the Holy of Holies is revealed as either Jesus crucified, he's the Holy of Holies, or as the temple destroyed, if you will. So he said he would destroy the temple. And somehow this destruction of the temple is concomitant with his body. And he said in 3 days he would raise up the temple. And nothing is said, but we can wonder, because we know the resurrection story. Maybe then, if the death of this body was connected with the destruction of the temple, maybe the structuring of a new temple in 3 days is also to be associated with the body of Jesus. The other episode, the centurion, the centurion, it says. But nobody said there was a centurion there before. He suddenly is there on the scene. A centurion, this is a Roman soldier. It's not the scribes, the Jewish scribes and Pharisees and the Jewish people. They were mocking him. Now here's a guy representing, if you will, all the pagan religions. And it says this is the whole point of Mark. He's facing him. It makes a point. And facing Jesus, and seeing the manner of his death, seeing, more literally, seeing that he died in this way, exclaimed, "Truly, this is the Son of God." What enabled him? There's no explanation of that except some sort of interior light that this man saw, not in the fact that Jesus came down from the cross, but in that he stayed on the cross and died the way he did. This is what revealed, let's say, to all the nations. This is what can reveal to all the nations the transcendence of Jesus, and that he truly is the Son of God. These are deep, deep mysteries, friends, that we enter into during Holy Week. And if we are to understand what's going on with the death of Jesus, and so in this way come to see how magnificent the resurrection is, then we must spend this Holy Week inside these texts and let their mysteries open to us. All the monks here, together with me, are praying that this Holy Week be for you a time of tremendous blessing as we recall the mysteries of our salvation in the death and resurrection of Jesus.